In order for society to function, community rules are essential. We know this, we've known it for thousands of years, and that is the basic tenet of civilization all over the world, because that is the nature of humans. We need rules in order to exist together in a society. Law and order prevents us from engaging in total anarchy, at least theoretically. That's the idea. This morning, I saw a tragic, heartbreaking story, which also infuriated me, coming out of Chicago. It's about a family Christmas, of all things. In this family, there were 3 generations of single moms, and bless them. I have been there. It is not easy. I know. The youngest single mom had 2 babies of her own. There was 1 adult uncle, 2 teen boys, 14 and 15 years old respectively. And you can look up this story online. Both of these boys were well known to carry guns around, just for fun, I guess. They had them tucked in their waistbands on a regular basis. It was well known. So already you can see that there's tragedy just lurking around every corner of every moment of every day with this kind of situation going on. Christmas Eve comes around, December 24th. This family is on a last-minute shopping expedition. We've all been there. Those are not fun either. So during this, this is very typical. I have 3 kids. I remember it well. And 2 of the 2 boys got into a spat about who was getting more Christmas presents. This is normal minus the gun toting. Okay, and so the older sister, as older sisters do, tells the 14-year-old to calm down and stop complaining. It's Christmas. Still, very normal family dynamics. And this is where it goes sideways. Because this aggrieved 14-year-old, feeling he's not getting enough Christmas presents, takes out his gun and shoots his sister dead while she is holding her baby in a carrier. The baby survived because of that carrier. So, kudos to the regulators on that one. So the 15-year-old then screams, "You shot my sister," to his brother, and shoots him in revenge. The 14-year-old is now stable in police custody. 15-year-old is in a mental institution because he threatened suicide. I probably would too, in the circumstances. The older sister is dead. Those children, her children, are orphaned. I am obviously really upset about this. But I am trying to convey this information in somewhat organized a fashion. This is going on Christmas Eve. It's supposedly one of the most sacred days of the Christian calendar. Okay? What the fuck? This is America now? We're lawless in our selfishness right up until the law can protect us or shelter our own dark deeds. And I am not angry primarily at those 2 boys. They are not where this problem started. Not by a long shot. I shouldn't have used a gun metaphor, but it was right there. Anyway, obviously, children shouldn't have guns. This is not about the American epidemic of gun violence, which is its own topic. That's not what this is about. Especially adolescents should not have guns. Hormones, we all know what they're like. They can seriously fuck up your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. I personally, honestly, menopause is a huge relief for me. It's a blessing. And I never thought I'd say that, but I now have a clarity that I thought I lost with childhood because of all those floods of irrational hormones and all of the things that it brings with it. Chemicals are hard to deal with. I understand. So, obviously also, the level of greed and violent selfishness in this 14-year-old kid is appalling. Over Christmas gifts of all fucking things. And as a pagan, let me just say, this is another reason that we need to have Krampus come back and Yuletide, in my opinion. And if you don't know who Krampus is, that's the Anti-Claus, basically. You can look it up. He rewards good kids that leave him tribute, but puts naughty children in a sack and beats them with switches. Where are they getting this behavior, though? It doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's not violence in video games. That's not what I'm referring to either. It is a cop-out to blame family dynamics by itself, since we all know that doesn't exist in a vacuum either. To whom do American kids and American families look to for their social cues, whether consciously or not? They and we look to authority figures, whether that means our local cops, doctors, teachers, our elected officials from the school board on up to the presidency. We have concentric circles of authority, okay, and they widen at each level. And that's what most of us look to as a subconscious standard of behavior. The widest circle is the very top, national government, which is what the greatest number of Americans are exposed to. Look at the pathetic state of those authority structures now. Congress is a fucking joke, thanks to MAGA morons like Gorilla Barbie, aka Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Lauren Boebert at a Beetlejuice theater performance, blowing vape smoke at a pregnant woman who asked her to stop while simultaneously jerking off her boyfriend of the week. Very talented there. Talk about being able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Obnoxious slut version. Congrats, America. And yeah, I'm picking on the women because A, I am one, and B, if I start with the MAGA men, I will never finish. But this is exemplified most loudly and most obnoxiously by the MAGA Messiah himself, the horrible human hemorrhoid best described as a circus peanut rolled in golden retriever fur, Donald John Trump. I've said it before, I grew up in New York. I never thought he was worth anything. He always was a mob boss. I grew up with the Italian mafia all over my neighborhood. None of them acted half as childish and disgusting as Donald Trump. This is beyond personal political opinion now. Way beyond. I speak as a New Yorker who has known Trump since way back in the day. I hated him from the moment he condemned the Central Park Five, and you can look that up too. 5 innocent black men that he called for the death penalty on them when they were proven innocent. So that was the first moment I knew him for what he was. And that's why a lot of New Yorkers can't stand him. We always knew what he was. He never had self-control, but there's not even a pretense anymore of him being a functioning adult member of human society. He's a criminal. He's already been found liable of fraud and rape in civil cases. And we haven't even started the 91 felony counts in criminal court that he's been indicted for. Side note, I'm a rape survivor, and I am a former model for John Casablanca's agency. I know it's hard to believe now that I'm 50 years old, but yeah, in my youth, I was a model. I had some association. I never met Trump, but I was in that agency. I grew up in New York. I know the atmosphere, for lack of a better term. And I can promise you, every woman who was familiar at all with Trump or his shit is not surprised by this. The fact that he's a rapist, yeah, we know. We already knew. We can smell it, among other things. The only thing that surprised me is that a coward like him would actually have the balls to assault someone. I never thought that he would have the guts to do that. It's the only thing that surprised me. On one side, he's breathing threats of violence now, mob boss style, because he's too stupid to learn a different style, at anyone that he perceives as opposing him, even if they're not, even if they're completely apolitical and they don't give a shit. He doesn't care. If he thinks they might be against him, he will sick the entire MAGA mob on them. If you followed the New York civil fraud case, you know what I'm talking about. The law clerk. Judge Engoron's law clerk? Yeah. A law clerk became a major issue for Trump and his entire team of incompetent, fourth-rate lawyers who aren't even licensed in New York State and therefore don't know what the fuck they're doing. New York has different procedures. Law clerks serve a different function. Go to, if you want to hear all about this in detail, Midas Touch Network. I recommend their stuff. They do know what they're talking about. And this has reached such a ridiculous level that there are literally not enough people who can provide protection full-time to everybody that needs it. Thanks to Trump and his maggots. This is where we are now. We're not even a civilized society, arguably. Counterpoint to these big man, big boss, Trumpian threats. On the other side of that, incessant whining, wailing, perpetual victimhood. Everybody's against me. They hate me. Trump derangement syndrome. What? Fuck off. And that's just when laws start to be accurately applied to him and his outrageous criminal behavior on every level throughout his misspent life. He never grew out of diapers. We hear now, actually, that's literal. It's actually not at all a surprise that this guy never learned to clean up his own shit, metaphorically or literally. This is nothing like what I grew up with in terms of politics. And yeah, I know, I sound like every other old person ever. Oh, in my day, we were so tough. We ate nails for breakfast and shat out rainbows or whatever. Walked to school and, you know, with no shoes, uphill both ways. Yeah, I know I sound like that. Sorry. But hear me out. I did see bitter disagreements growing up, politically, religiously, whatever, throughout my adult life as well, between Democrats and Republicans, and within those groups as well. Plenty of debate and healthy disagreement. I actually really enjoyed debate class, and I still would possibly enjoy it if things could calm down a little bit and go back to this civilized society that we used to kind of have. I also saw these politicians back then put disagreements on policy aside for the sake of the nation when it really became necessary, in times of disaster. I saw vibrant friendships across the aisle in politics. they really cared about each other. But friendships like John McCain and I think Joe Biden were really good friends, actually cared about each other. Sure, there was tons of corruption. There always is. Anything human beings touch is corrupt at some point. But everyone agreed on the principles of law under the Constitution of the United States, which is what this nation was founded on. No surprise to anyone, I'm sure. I've always leaned left myself, especially on social issues, except growing up in the cult and being brainwashed. Even then, I felt it was wrong. You know, the approach that they had to social issues. So I was taught that was wrong by the cultists that surrounded me growing up, but I still listened to debate with an open mind once I got out of the cult. And I did actually vote for Republicans at times when I felt like they were the more trustworthy or the well-intended candidate. Yeah, I did. For example, I honestly never trusted Hillary Clinton or her husband. That's just one example, probably a bad example, but anyway. I did vote for Republicans when I thought they were the better choice. Now? Fuck no. Why? Because look at the chaos. Look at them. There is no way to find any shred of respect for these people. And there's no way to justify the positions that they are so unqualified to hold. Would you trust any one of these people as a babysitter? I think not. I wouldn't trust them to change the cat litter in my house. This MAGA cult, it's much further from conservative Christian values than anything you will find on the left anymore. It's unrecognizable. Christian nationalists are swallowing Don Jr.'s statement that turning the other cheek really doesn't work. It's weak. They accept that. The Beatitudes, you know, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. All of that, forgotten, rejected by mainstream American Christianity. Where the fuck is Jesus in all of this mess? I am the furthest thing from a Christian now, but I have tons more respect for Jesus Christ than they do. I can't believe how opposite they are to everything Jesus preached. Republicans used to be strictest on law and order. You know, we used to have this thing, we describe our politics as like the Republicans were the dad and the Democrats were the mom. And, you know, together they created some kind of balance. And I don't think that really ever happened, but that was the ideal that we aspired to, and you could see, you know, the potential for it sometimes. Now? Where is that? Now, MAGA doesn't even think you're a human being if you don't agree with them. They accept Trump quoting Hitler, calling people that disagree with them vermin, calling immigrants vermin, like we all did not come from immigrants in this country. Isn't that the point of America? That's how we justify having this land, because we're immigrants. And there's plenty wrong with that as well. Our behavior toward, you know, the indigenous people of North America is appalling, and we have never sufficiently begun to address that. But again, that is not the subject today. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Guess who's not in that number? All of Congress. On the Republican side, maybe somebody among the Democrats, maybe. Now, they are the most out of control. With their constant scandals, it's exhausting to even wake up every day and go, what the fuck did that idiot do now? Or whatever idiot. It could be any number of them. They are so embarrassing. Our country is humiliated by these MAGA morons running amok. The utter lawlessness on the right now is really frightening to me, honestly. Obviously it pisses me off, but that's because it's scary. And I grew up in hyper-conservative, hyper-religious surroundings. I got used to relying on moderate conservatives to curb the worst extremes of those around them. Now, MAGA fascism, and that is what it is. Look up fascism. Fascism in MAGA has now chased away all of the moderate, normal, law and order, human being Republicans. Conservatives. Actual conservatives. Not whatever the fuck this is in MAGA. The lunatics are running the asylum. So here we are with American families murdering each other on Christmas Eve. Literally killing each other over Christmas gifts because that is what they hear. Spewing forth from the front runner of the Republican Party every single fucking day. Trump's usual tactics are to exhaust the adults in the room. And it works. It always has worked. Ever wonder why he produces millions of idiotic motions and briefs in all his many law cases? That's why. Because it works. He exhausts people. What does he care? How many teenagers murder their families in a hormonal rage over Christmas gifts because they have guns in this country? Everyone wants laws to be strictly applied to everybody else. Yeah, and all of a sudden, until it's time for it to apply to them or theirs, then it's different. Conservatives used to stand strong against this kind of hypocrisy from either side. Now they endorse an incontinent, raging egomaniac who commits crimes publicly, as easy as breathing or crapping his pants. He's openly promising to rewrite the Constitution on day one if he gets reelected. All the gods forbid that, please. And he means it. Maya Angelou, somebody shows you who they are, you believe them. He plans to imbue the executive branch, president, with all of the power and authority to rule. He is effectively telling us out loud that he plans to make himself king. No more judicial or legislative checks and balances, not even in appearance. Trump openly aspires to be a dictator. Just like his heroes, Xi, Putin, Kim, et al. So Heil Hitler. You proud of yourself, America? If we don't want our society to utterly collapse, we need to relearn self-control, self-discipline, empathy. And we must finally enact strict, fair, equal justice under the law. For real this time. Not just for rich, white, Christian men. Justice, even when it comes for us or those we love, or it doesn't work. And especially for those we trust to govern. They should be held to a higher standard. The bar shouldn't be so low You get what I'm saying. I already cussed. I might as well keep going, but yeah. Standards should be higher for those in power, not lower. Society only works through cooperation. And I fear very much that Americans may have lost the old spirit that we had, that I loved, the old spirit of cooperative effort. If Trump is reelected, it will be America's last real election, if he has his way. And I don't see how he won't, if he's reelected. But even if he's not reelected, there are way too many cockroaches just like him who crawled out of the woodwork onto the national stage with him. You see one cockroach, you know there's a billion more. And we see a lot more than just one. They have all been legitimized by the MAGA cult, and there are no honorable conservatives left to stand against them. They all left Congress. Poor Mitt Romney. I completely disagree with him on just about everything, socially speaking. But he was a decent man. At least he believed in what he stood for. Still does. But he's retiring. Everybody like him, retiring. We don't have any balance anymore. If we ever did, which is questionable. I really fear for and I mourn the degradation of my country. I didn't realize, honestly, until 2016's disastrous election, how much I actually do love America, despite the many appalling flaws that it's always had from its inception, since the first Europeans set foot on shore here. But at least I do love the ideals that America used to lay claim to, the potential for a truly equitable melting pot society that creates a unity within diversity. How beautiful would that be? That's what I loved. And the only hope left is in ourselves. Because change comes first to individual hearts and minds. Then from there it can spread outward to our communities, our cities, our states, our nations, the whole world. And with that, I'm going to end with the Druid Prayer for Peace. Because that's where our only hope is, in peace. Deep within the still center of my being, may I find peace. Quietly within the circle of the grove, may I share peace. And gently but powerfully, within the greater circle of humankind, may I radiate peace. So may it be. Blessings of peace to you all. And sorry for all the cussing. Actually, I'm not really sorry. It's who I am. Happy New Year.